What's up, guys? This is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we're going to be talking about why the Smith and Wesson M&P sucks. I've been checking the forums lately, and I can tell you that there is a lot of information on there that would lead you to believe the Smith and Wesson M&P is a very terrible pistol. Some of it's legitimate, and some of it's not. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things that I thought was a legitimate con of the gun, and a couple different things that is just make-believe from people on forums that have either never had experience with that gun or experience with guns altogether and just like to leave an opinion. Because one of the problems with the internet these days is that even though your opinion may not be valid, you still have an opinion and people can read that opinion and pass it on to somebody else. So right off the bat, I just want to say that I do like the M&P. There are a couple things that suck about it for sure, and we are going to talk about those, but I want to say up front, the M&P is as good as any other polymer pistol on the market. Some pistols have their pros and cons, and other pistols have their pros and cons. One trigger may not be as good as the other, but their sights might be better. All of them kind of even out in the end. But today we're going to be talking about the bad news about the M&P. The first thing I can think of right off the bat is the trigger. One of the most common aftermarket upgrades for the M&P pistol is the trigger. And most people use this Apex trigger here. It, in my opinion, is the best upgrade for the M&P that you can buy. It replaces this crazy ass situation that you see here. Now this trigger is no H&K VP9 or Walter PPQ trigger or anything like that, but it's not that bad. It's got a weird safety on it, but with enough practice you can easily get used to it. One of the biggest complaints that I've seen is if you shoot a pistol like the Glock or a 1911 or something like that, some commonly used pistol where people have gotten used to the trigger, and then you try something different, people always think it sucks. But you can get used to it, so it's a legitimate complaint. So it's legitimate and not legitimate because you can get used to it, and you can switch it out if you want to, but from the factory you're going to have to deal with a little bit of weirdness. The slide release is a legitimate concern as well. If you've noticed on, let's say, this Glock 17, if I lock the slide back like that, by the way, all these pistols are unloaded, and if they're not, it's not going to shoot your house, so don't worry about it. So if you have your Glock locked back like that, you can easily hit the slide release and it goes back down. When you put an empty magazine in, it gets a little more difficult, but it's still easily doable, especially for dry fire practice. Now, coming over to the M&P, let's go with the M&P Pro here. Takes a lot more force, and it doesn't seem to be as much of a ledge on there, so you really have to work at it to push that down. It gets considerably worse when you put a magazine in there. You really have to wrench that thing down to get it to go. That's a legitimate concern, especially if you use the slide stop to reload. Currently, the tactical community would tell you that you can't use your slide release to reload, even though it's faster, because only gross motor skills work in a gunfight. Now, do I agree that you should use gross motor skills when possible? Yeah, I do agree with that. But however, hitting the magazine release is a small button and a fine movement, so if you can't use anything but gross motor skills, how the fuck can you hit that in the first place? Something to think about. But slide release needs some work, especially if you're going to use it for a competition pistol like this M&P 9 long slide here. It's a little more difficult to hit it, and sometimes you find yourself losing seconds on it. The other negative from the slide release that I can think of off the top of my head is that there are no aftermarket accessories to help this out. There are a lot of aftermarket accessories for the slide release on the Glock and the 1911 style pistols, but I have not seen one for the M&P yet. The sizing is a little bit odd, I have to admit, as well. That's a legitimate complaint. I don't have an M&P compact here, although I owned one previously. I actually like that size of pistol. It's a little bit smaller than the Glock 19, but a little bit bigger than the Glock 26. I like that. Well, a lot of people didn't. They felt like the M&P should have been made in the standard Glock 17, Glock 19 category. I guess I would have really liked to have seen a Glock 19 size M&P, but the M&P compact works for me. By the way, if anybody didn't know at the beginning of this video, the M&P and the Glock are very closely related. They're kind of a heated rival, so to speak, because they're very similar pistols, except for the fact that the Glock has kind of a weird grip angle and it's been around longer, and the M&P has a more traditional 1911 style grip angle, and it's a little more gun for the money, but it doesn't have the track record, and they're not as popular, so go from there. This is not an M&P versus Glock video, so I'll move on. Another complaint that I can see is that it's a little bit heavier than the Glock. I've heard that online as well. But that's not really a complaint for me. That's just more of giving you an option. With the M&P style pistol, yeah, it's a little more weight, but it's not really that much. It's only a couple ounces, and it gives you that extra controllability of the pistol. If you shoot this M&P versus this Glock 17, even though the Glock 17 has a little bit longer barrel, you'll find the M&P is slightly you'll find that the M&P is slightly more controllable. So it's not really a legitimate complaint in my opinion. Running into that, let's just go off some of the really stupid form things that I wanted to talk about. Right after that, let's talk about some of the complaints that may not be so legitimate. Starting off, you're going to have the, it's got a thumb safety, it's got a thumb safety. Well, no it doesn't. You can buy models with a thumb safety, and you can buy models without a thumb safety. It's not a design flaw, it's just Smith and Wesson giving you options. For example, this pistol does not come with a thumb safety. This pistol did come with a thumb safety, and it is easily removable, and I've owned this pistol for years now, and it has not had any malfunctions by me removing the thumb safety. It is not accidentally engaged or anything like that. So if you remove your pistol, this is just from my experience now, but if you remove your safety from your M&P pistol, you will not see any legitimate problems. At least I have not from my experience. It's polymer. Well, yeah, it's polymer. Almost all modern guns made today are polymer, and one of the reasons for that is because of the weight. If you compare a steel or even aluminum frame pistol to a polymer gun, the polymer gun is going to be lighter. And since most common pistols now are made in the most common caliber 9mm, which is a very controllable caliber to start out with, you don't really need that extra weight to control it. It's nice in a competitive situation. In a self-defense situation, the polymer M&P is just as effective as its bigger steel counterparts. Takedown, you can only take it down with a tool. It needs a tool to be taken down. That's ridiculous. First of all, they gave you that option, and that option to me is fucking stupid. Taking the firearm down requires a tool. You hear that all the time for some reason. I don't understand why. There's all kinds of videos on the M&P. If you wanted to learn how to take down the pistol without a tool, you simply would just have to look. But instead, people just type things. It's ridiculous. First of all, if you are not willing to point your gun in a safe direction and pull the trigger to take it down, why do you own it? If you own the gun and you're capable of successfully and safely transporting it to the range, loading the pistol, firing the pistol, bringing the pistol home, unloading the pistol, putting it back in the safe, and or dry firing with the pistol in a safe direction, why would you not be capable of pointing the pistol in a safe direction, okay, locking the slide to the rear, making sure there is no ammunition in the gun at all. You can put your finger in there if you want to. You can shove a brush down if you want to. You can shove your fingers up in the magazine if that makes you feel better. But there are no rounds in this pistol, okay? So if you see that, this thing is just a paperweight at this point. Still point in the safe direction, still respect it as a deadly weapon, but understand that nothing is going to happen if I push the takedown lever, release the slide, and pull the trigger. Nothing is going to happen but the fact that I just took this pistol down without a tool. It feels cheap. Really? I don't actually think it does. That's not a legitimate complaint to me. It doesn't feel any cheaper to me than the XDs or the Glocks or the CZP09 or any other polymer pistol that I currently own. It's not a Glock. Yeah, that's a legitimate complaint, I guess. If I had to choose one pistol or the other for WRL or concealed carry or anything like that, man, I gotta tell you, I gotta go with the Glock. Only because most people I know carry Glocks and I would be able to use their magazines under like extreme duress, and because I legitimately do not have a dog in this fight. I think that Glocks and M&Ps are both equally competent when it comes to defending somebody's life. Not enough accessories? Yeah, I could see that. That's kind of legitimate. Only if you consider that. Only if you consider the Glock and the 1911, because the Glock and the 1911 probably have the most accessories for a pistol. Maybe third place. Third place is probably the M&P or CZ maybe, but yeah, it doesn't have as many accessories as the Glock, but it has quite a few accessories. You can't go on eBay and look up 8,000 different Kydex holsters and sights and accessories for the Arsenal Strike 1, so don't complain too much about the limited selection of accessories for the M&P, because it could be a lot worse. And the last complaint I wanted to talk about today, and I probably missed a few, but these are just the ones that I've heard over and over again as far as the M&P goes. The last complaint I want to go over is the slide length of the long slide. Yeah, it's a little bit awkward, I have to admit. That is a legitimate complaint as well. I have shot this quite a few times, and I like it under long strings of fire, but as you hold it up just naturally, it does seem a little bit awkward and top heavy. That's actually one of the first things I noticed about this pistol when I bought it. But under action, it does all right, and since plenty of people have won USPSA and IDPA national championships and stuff with this pistol, I think you can manage, and I think you can get used to it. That's what I wanted to close on here, is that I'm going to be making, I hopefully am going to be making this into a video series where I talk about this, where I talk about some of the most common complaints on a lot of different pistol designs, mainly the ones that I own, the ones I personally have experience on. But the point of this video I'm trying to make, is being a little sarcastic about it, is that you can get used to almost any pistol, and you can shoot almost any pistol well. When it comes to like the CZP09 versus the Glock 17, or the M&P versus the XD, they're all going to have different traits that you can look for that you either like or dislike in a pistol, and everybody's going to be different. But if you are just simply like if you're forced to use a certain pistol for a certain reason, like my buddy owned a Glock for years and years and years and years, and then he was issued an FN9 on duty, well, he had to get used to that pistol. Well, he hated it to start off with, and within a couple of weeks he got used to it, and then he was as good with it as he was his Glock, even though he initially didn't like it at all. You can get used to everything as long as a pistol is reliable and accurate and fairly lightweight, so you can carry it all the time. You can get used to all the other quirks, in my opinion. This has been the Honest Outlaw here, doing a quick controversial review, I guess. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, things I missed, or you don't agree with me at all, that's super okay. Leave them in the comments below. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle.